Hello everybody, welcome to Monday Morning Must-Knows. My name is Merlin Rothfeld. Here are three very important things to pay attention to for the upcoming trading week. Now, before I dive into those three things, let's recap what happened last week. Certainly, all eyes were on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve as that FOMC announcement came out as expected and raised 75 basis points on the Fed funds futures. Now, right away, that created a nice negative move for the equity indexes, but it also cast a little bit of shadow of doubt about the health of the economy. Jerome Powell, in the press conference immediately following, painted a rather negative picture, talking about more pain, talking about rising unemployment, and certainly, he said, consistent growth declines of our economy. That is not a very positive thing for our markets going forward. That said, there is a bunch of stuff to talk about with Jerome Powell for this week, so let's get started right there talking about earnings. I know I did a little about face. We'll start with earnings, then get to Jerome Powell. Now, I haven't done earnings for quite some time, so let's dive into some of the bigger names reporting this week. On Monday, we don't really have anything that's noteworthy. On Tuesday, we do. We have BlackBerry and Cintas. Now, this is just two of the 247 companies reporting this week. Again, I'm cherry picking the bigger names that you might recognize. On Wednesday, it gets a little bit better. You have Cintas, Paychex, and Mercedes-Benz. And then Thursday is really the big day with major names like Micron Technologies, Nike, Rite Aid, Bed Bath & Beyond, Carnival Cruise Lines, and CarMax. Now, BBBY is an interesting one because certainly it's become the meme stock darling. Crazy swings on that one, of course. If it has the word meme stock on it, you know it's gambling. It's going to be high risk. So we'll see what happens with their earnings. So much speculation. It's just going to be fun to watch that one as it ping-pong balls around the earnings announcement. Now, again, there's 247 companies reporting. If any of these are in your portfolio, the best thing to do is err on the side of caution, maybe become more defensive because we just don't know how things are going to be reported with earnings. Even great news on earnings can cause a security to crash and vice versa. Terrible news, the stock could soar. That's just uncertainty that you probably don't want to be dealing with in your portfolio. Now, let's talk about more uncertainty. Let's talk about the man himself, Mr. Jerome Powell. Now, I bring this one up because he's actually going to be presenting at a conference this week, which is very important, near and dear to me. As you guys may know, I created the cryptocurrency program for Online Trading Academy. Cam Kaiser and myself host 2 sessions live every week on Tuesday and Thursdays. Now, this is important because this meeting is going to be talking about finance and digital currencies. So Jerome Powell will be participating in a panel discussion on digital currencies, and this is hosted by the Bank of France. This will happen Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is really important. I understand that many of you may not be into digital currencies or cryptocurrency or really care. However, the guardrails, the parameters for the path of evolution of cryptocurrency and digital assets is still up in the air and trying to be figured out right now by the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, the SEC, the CFTC, all these different agencies trying to figure out how do we create the rails for cryptocurrency. Now, given the fact that Jerome Powell is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, all eyes will be watching him and listening intently to what he has to say about things like Ethereum, Bitcoin. Are these currencies? Are they commodities? Are they securities? Maybe even more in depth is what are the rules with regards to stable coins that we can enjoy in the United States? What are his thoughts on something like a central bank digital currency? All of these topics are up in the air right now, and any clarity that Jerome Powell can give to that market segment or that industry of cryptocurrency and digital assets can create tremendous volatility. Now, since November, a lot of cryptocurrencies are down 70, 80, maybe even 90%. It's been a bloodbath in that industry. However, if we do get some clarity, maybe a little bit of positive comments from Jerome Powell, you could continue to see either maybe downside movements or huge upswings. Bottom line is this announcement will be happening Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be very careful and expect there to be significant volatility in cryptocurrency around that time based off what Jerome Powell says. Now, Jerome Powell on Wednesday, as he did his press conference after the announcement when they raised 75 basis points, he also talked about inflation. He talked about consumer price index. He talked about producer price index. He also talked about economic growth slowing moderately for a sustained amount of time. Also talked about employment rising significantly. These are not good things to say about your economy going forward. He did, however, point the finger directly at inflation multiple times, and he said, the Core PCE Price Index is one of the metrics that we're looking at. We're seeing declines there. Well, are we? The good news for you is, coming out this week, we have, lo and behold, drum roll, the Core PCE Price Index, happening Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you'll notice on the hard red edge of that chart, we have a very low number came out at 0.1%. Now, that still means we have inflation, but it is significantly lower than the month before that, which was over 0.5%. all eyes right now are on this report to see where, in fact, we do come out. Do we come back out at 0.1%, which would be some level of normal, or do we see a higher print and the previous month being a one-off data point? All eyes right now are focused on this. This is probably the most important announcement of the week because Jerome Powell specifically targeted inflation. The reason it's so important is if inflation starts to slow, and granted, we have 1 point data on this chart, but what if we get 2 consecutive months of declines or maybe even go negative on that core PCE price index? What that will do will create a little bit of optimism about the Fed's attack on inflation and say, aha, it's working. Now, we don't know for certain, but at least a second point of data will confirm for the Fed that things are starting to slow down with regards to inflation. And remember, we have this battle right now. You have inflation is surging, and you also have the Fed funds raising rate to combat inflation. If inflation starts to decline, the Fed may backpedal and slow down their raising of interest rates. In November's meeting, they're expecting 75 basis point increase. They're also expecting another 50 basis points in December, which means 1.25% by the end of the year. Now, if we get those numbers, imagine what that's going to do to our economy. Right now, we're seeing mortgages over 6% and a significant slide in housing. If we get another 1.25% on top of that and mortgages start to jump to 7, maybe 8%, the economy is going to slow down significantly. So the Fed's kind of backed themselves in a corner. And right now, all eyes are on the Fed and those inflation numbers, which we can see here on the Core PCE Price Index. That said, you got a lot of important announcements. You got some earnings, you have some cryptocurrency talk from the central bank, as well as inflation data coming out on Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must-Knows. We'll see you next week.